Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be taking a look into Oblivion, which is a short story collection published in 2004 by David Foster Wallace. DFW is often celebrated and sometimes feared for his complex, challenging writing style, and Oblivion is no exception. Let's unpack the themes, ideas, and stylistic choices and make this collection such an intriguing and occasionally overwhelming read. Also, let's consider why these stories might feel so intense, and we'll talk about how Waltz uses them to explore the human condition. Before we jump into Oblivion, let's briefly talk about the author himself. He was an American writer known for pushing the boundaries of fiction and nonfiction. His work often wrestles with big philosophical questions like the nature of consciousness, the difficulty of genuine communication, and the struggles of modern life in a heavily mediated, consumer driven culture. You're most likely to be familiar with his 1996 masterpiece, Infinite Jest, which I may discuss down the road in a much longer video. Wallace's style is often called dense. He's famous for long sentences, footnotes, endnotes, parenthetical sidebars, and digressions that sometimes feel like you're reading a story within a story, one of my favorite parts. But beneath all this complexity is a deep concern with empathy, honesty, and ways we try and often fail to connect with one another. So while Wallace is called dense, at its core, his writing is a desire to explore that empathy, honesty, and struggles to connect, especially in this modern world. So, Oblivion itself is a collection of 8 stories. The first being Mr. Squishy, which explores corporate marketing, focus groups, and the nature of mass persuasion. Underneath the corporate jargon is a meditation on loneliness and how easily people can be manipulated, both by advertising and by their own longing for connection. The second is Good Old Neon, perhaps the most famous story in Oblivion. This is a deep dive into the psyche of someone who believes he's a total fraud. It raises the question, is everyone performing, or is there a genuine self underneath the performance? The third story, The Soul is Not a Smithy, shifts perspective between a child's daydreaming mind and a traumatic event in the classroom. It showcases how reality can be overshadowed by the stories we tell ourselves. The fourth, Incarnations of Burned Children, is a short and devastating story. It's about a child who is scalded by boiling water, and Wallace spares no detail about the parents' fanatic reaction. It's a gut punch of a story that forces readers to confront intense suffering head on. The fifth story, The Suffering Channel, takes on the intersection of art, celebrity, and suffering. It also critiques our media-obsessed culture by highlighting how easily personal tragedy can become a spectacle. Though these stories vary in plot and setting, they consistently deal with human vulnerability, performance, and that desperate need to connect and be understood. They vary in length, tone, and style. Some are relatively short and terrifyingly intense, like Incarnations of Burned Children. Others, such as Mr. Squishy or The Suffering Channel, are lengthy, meticulously detailed, and critique everything from marketing research to reality TV culture. Despite their differences, these stories share common themes, which is the fragility of identity, the burden of self-awareness, and the rap and strain of consumer culture, and the profound difficulty of truly communicating and connecting with each other. So on the themes, one big one is about identity and self-consciousness. It's a recurring theme across Oblivion, and that's the question of who am I when no one's looking? For Wallace, identity is not a fixed, stable entity. Instead, it's formed through a complex web of self-reflection, social feedback, and internal narratives. In Good Old Neon, for instance, the narrator grapples with the feeling he's a fraud, constantly aware that his self might be just a performance. This anxiety about authenticity drives much of Wallace's work, and Oblivion especially. Again, it's that question, who am I when no one's looking? And it's echoed throughout the story, showing us how easily we can feel like imposters in our own lives. Another main theme is illusion versus reality. So Wallace often uses advertising, marketing, or media as metaphors for the illusions we build around ourselves. Mr. Squishy dives into the world of focus groups and corporate branding, revealing how much of what we see and consume is carefully engineered. The story shows how illusions aren't just personal, they're mass produced and sold back to us. On a personal level, illusions arise from how we present ourselves. The tension between who we think we are and who we want to be is a powerful force in these stories. Another main theme I'd say is communication breakdown. Even though Wallace's characters talk, write, or think endlessly, actual communication is deeply fraught. People speak past each other, remain locked in their own heads, or can't communicate what they truly feel. This breakdown in communication ties back to the anxiety we have about identity. If I can't communicate who I am, do I even know who I am? The last theme I want to talk about is the intersection of suffering and empathy. Many of these stories highlight suffering, sometimes mundane, sometimes extreme. But the core question becomes, can we empathize with another person's pain when we're stuck in our own heads? In Incarnations of Burned Children, the horrific accident at the center of the story forces us to confront the rawness of suffering, while also questioning how a narrator or a reader can truly empathize. Wallace's style in Oblivion can often feel like a labyrinth. He uses extremely long sentences, footnotes, those sidebars we were talking about, and constant shifts in perspective. This can be intimidating, but it also mirrors the complexity of modern life. Advertisements, internal monologues, social demands, and random data points all bombard us all at once. He's deliberately layering every detail to replicate how complicated consciousness can feel, how each moment is made of countless impressions, memories, and anxieties. This style can be demanding, but it aims to bring us closer to the characters' mental and emotional realities, making them especially real as we read the story. So, why does Oblivion matter? Is it important to read? When you're reading a collection that can be so demanding and frankly unsettling, you have to ask that. First, David Foster Wallace's influence on contemporary literature is massive. He challenged the limits of form, and his legacy can be felt in countless modern writers who grapple with technology, irony, and sincerity. Second, the emotional core of Oblivion is highly relatable. Despite the dizzying footnotes or the experimental narrative structures, many readers find a genuine reflection of their own anxieties, the fear of not being authentic, the loneliness of modern life, and the longing to connect. Wallace's use of hyper detailed, almost obsessive description asks us to slow down and pay attention to language, to ourselves, to other people. In a world of constant distractions, Oblivion forces us to focus on what it feels like to be alive, moment by moment. So while Oblivion is demanding, what's more important is its emotional honesty, its formal innovation, and its reflection on our own modern anxieties. So DFW's Oblivion is a challenging read, and it can be dense, unsettling, even painful, very sad. But at the same time, it's a profound exploration of identity, reality, communication, and suffering. These stories invite us to examine our own illusions, our own struggles, our own authenticity, with our own desperate attempts to be understood. If you've read Oblivion, let me know which story hits you the hardest. If you haven't, I can't recommend enough that you give him a try, as there's so much you can explore with Oblivion and DFW's other work, well beyond what I can describe in this video for sure. So thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to check back for more videos like this one. Cheers.